だからジメレオンはジメレオンのままでいい。俺のことなんか気にせず好きなだけ巣ごもりして俺を誘ってくれたら嬉しい。
Hey everyone, it's Mark. This is my recap for Pokémon Journeys episode 62, The Depression of Drizzile. This was the 1147th episode of the Pokemon anime and the last that includes GOH'S Sobble. I was dreading this day. Sobble really has been my favorite Pokemon in this series, but I can get over that, especially since this is officially the first video I'm posting after hitting 1,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much for helping me reach that milestone. I have been working on my 1K special Q&A video that I promised, so expect that one sooner rather than later. For now, let's get into this episode review. The episode starts at the Cerise Park, and Sobble is running around and hiding, doing some of the training on its own that Go taught it back in episode 54. Ash and Go are getting interviewed for some reason, which I'm sure will go well. Ash has a great track record of being a good TV interview.
It says here that winning trainers should conduct themselves with dignity and restraint.
Woohoo! I won! Yeah! I'm gonna win every battle just like I did this one! Hi, Mom!
But for real, this interview is strange. It's seemingly just an informational piece on what happens at the Cerise lab in the Cerise Park, and Ash and Go are just identified as 10-year-old lab assistants. Really? That's it? I mean, all of our main characters are pretty humble, so I wouldn't expect them to be treated as guests of honor or anything, like being announced as the heroes of the Galar region, but I mean, isn't it really strange that Ash is just treated like some kid, and he doesn't have any celebrity status? I don't usually gripe about this kind of stuff because I don't think it's necessary for Ash to constantly be recognized and treated like some kind of chosen one or hero, but you'd think if he's getting interviewed on TV, they would at least know him from something, but I guess his accomplishments just aren't very well known. It's not like other regional champions are treated like a big deal, right? Anyways, that discussion had nothing to do with the episode really, so let's just move on. I can't tell what the actual purpose of this interview is, but they do tell a story about saving that guy's farm back in episode 52, and when the reporter asks them what their goals are, Ash gives his usual, I want to be a Pokemon Master and beat Leon spiel, while Go announces his dream of catching every Pokemon, and some of his most outgoing Pokemon come out to say hi, which freaks out the reporter. Again though, literally none of this matters. I guess it was just a subtle way to remind us of their goals, and I guess the point Go makes about understanding every Pokemon does factor heavily into this episode, so I guess that was the point. In reality, the real story that's happening in the Cerise Park is Sobble's epic training montage, where it's jumping around and using water gun from its mouth while pointing its hand, pretending to be an action star like Inteleon. It's improved a lot already, and even saves Oddish from a berry that was about to fall on its head. As it stops to celebrate its progress, whoa, here we go, that didn't take long. Roll the clip.
So, how long is it gonna be till the big Evolverama?
Less than 4 minutes into the episode. That's how long we had to wait for this evolution, and we get one last cute as Sobble envisions itself evolving into Inteleon. Wait, what? Sobble thinks it's going to evolve straight into Inteleon? Oh, this is not good. Go and the others are outside saying goodbye to the TV crew, and Go gets notified of his Pokemon's evolution by Drizzile's data getting entered into the Pokedex. Back inside Cerise Park, Drizzile, is walking around super excited to be an Inteleon, until, well, it sees its reflection in the water and realizes its mistake. Drizzile immediately goes into a near catatonic depression, expressing basically no emotion outside of irritation towards others. It no longer uses water gun by shooting water out of its mouth, instead it forms water balloons in its hands. We see a series of events of Drizzile just getting knocked around the Cerise Park by various other Pokemon. It seems to be trying to find a place to be alone by itself, but other Pokemon already seem to have their own territory marked out. Go and the others are searching for it, and this may have genuinely been my favorite part of the episode. The second Go mentions Cinderace, it runs out from nowhere and does a full-on knee slide that Didier Drogba would be proud of. I don't know if I've ever highlighted the connection that I myself am a soccer player, so I have a special affinity for Cinderace since they are essentially based off soccer players in a way. I wish I could do as impressive of a knee slide as that. Drizzile's sad adventures lead it to getting knocked into Cinderace, who is amazed by its evolution, but Drizzile isn't even happy to see its big brother. It gives it the same treatment as everyone else and just walks away. Cinderace eventually leads the others to Drizzile, and Go crawls into this cave that it's hiding out in, and is very shocked by Drizzile ignoring him. Go encourages Drizzile to come out and see the others, and this is not really working on Drizzile. This seems like mundane stuff, but the way Go is acting here is very important later on. Cinderace pushes it even further and eventually physically drags it out of the cave, encouraging it to say hi to everyone else. Drizzile lets out a single tear, disappears, and starts to run away. Everyone chases after it, but it eventually escapes the Cerise lab entirely, and Go loses track of it. Back inside, everyone tries to brainstorm ideas about Drizzile and why it's acting strange. Professor Cerise drops some real professorial knowledge by pointing out that Pokemon can completely change personality upon evolving, with Go's Cinderace being a perfect example. Another important line here, Go talks about how he and Cinderace were just trying to help Drizzile by bringing it out to socialize with everyone, so how come it got even more sad and withdrawn? Ren brings out some theory about how maybe its middle stage evolution is preparing it for its final stage, which I don't really buy very much, but nonetheless it plays into the narrative that Drizzile wants to be an Inteleon. Professor Cerise says they don't know a whole lot about Drizzile, and whether Go's Drizzile is acting similar or different to other Pokemon of the same species, and it's up to them as researchers to discover things like this. Everyone heads out into town to try and find Drizzile, and after Go tells the others to head back and that he'll continue searching on his own, Chloe hits him with a sick burn that he still tries to act all grown up and mature, which triggers Go to think about a flashback where, guess what, Go had the exact same experience as his Drizzile. It looked like back in, I don't know, let's call it preschool or elementary school or whatever the equivalent is in your part of the world, that a young Go didn't want to hang out with the other students, and when his teacher asked him why he didn't want to, it just made him shed a tear exactly like Drizzile. This was really corny to me that Go just so happened to have basically the exact same experience as his Pokemon. Like, I get having a similar introverted experience, but this felt a bit much to me. Speaking of which, Go's flashbacks continue to this strange building that he ran away to as a kid, and guess what everyone, that's exactly where Drizzile ran away to. What an unbelievable coincidence. So here's where we reach the, I guess you could call it the climax of the episode. I don't know. I guess it was the emotional high point. Go sits down next to Drizzile and starts apologizing for how he acted earlier, and he retells the story about how he had it exactly the same way when he was growing up and how he didn't understand himself why he didn't want to hang out with others, and it just made him even more frustrated when people tried to figure out why. He even mentions how his family weren't very helpful either, and I don't know if this was meant to be some weird allegory to how Ash and Go aren't around very often, but whatever. Go says that he and Drizzile are a lot alike and that it can stay in its den as long as it wants, and hopefully one day it will want to hang out with Go again, and oh boy, here comes the waterworks. We already know Go is an ugly crier. This does lead to a real breakthrough though, as Drizzile wipes away one of Go's tears, cracking a smile before disappearing again and returning to the Cerise Park, and the episode ends with everyone being happy with Drizzile's latest developments. Well, I don't know if Drizzile is actually happy, but you get what I mean. I'm giving this episode... This was the toughest episode yet to give a rating to. Let me discuss it first, and then we'll get to the rating. First off, I do want to mention that Sobble evolving, and therefore meaning we no longer get Go's cute Sobble, does bum me out, but that doesn't play into my rating at all. I do wish it had stayed a Sobble forever, but I'm not going to mark this episode lower because it evolved. Instead, let's focus on how the episode handled Sobble's transition into Drizzile. Just after evolving, Drizzile was happy about evolving. It was excited at the prospect of being an Inteleon. It was only after it discovered that it wasn't an Inteleon that it became depressed. Okay, that's fair enough, that makes sense. Once Go finds it hiding in its den, this is where I start to have issues with this episode. If Drizzile is depressed because it's not an Inteleon, why doesn't it react to Go saying that they can keep training together so that it can evolve again and become an Inteleon? And I don't want to get caught up in the same trap of asking why Drizzile felt the way it did. That's literally the lesson Go had to learn, but actually I think we literally saw the reason why it was depressed. First it was happy, then it found out it wasn't an Inteleon, and then it was sad. That's simple. There's your answer. It was strange to me that it seemingly lost all motivation to try and evolve again, even after Go brought up how it can keep training and grow into an Inteleon. I already went over the excessive convenience of Go and Drizzile's stories being nearly identical. That's something I've consistently harped on in my anime reviews, that I think some things are just a little too convenient for my liking. I also acknowledge that this is probably too critical of a gripe for a show like Pokemon. They're not here to tell the most complex stories. It's more effective to just make it obvious for the viewer by doing things like having Go and Drizzile's experiences be so similar. Let's talk about Go apologizing to Drizzile and explaining how it's okay for it to be alone by itself. I do want to make it clear that this was a really nice message the show was giving, and I perfectly understand what was going on here. I have a similar story myself. I've always been an introverted person with a touch of social anxiety, and I still remember my dad getting frustrated with me when I didn't want to go to Friday night football games during high school. He just didn't understand why I didn't want to go to football games like most high school students did. And just like Go emphasized in this episode, I didn't really really know why either. I struggled with that kind of thinking basically all throughout high school and into my freshman year of college, and that's when I learned just how true these words were, that what you want to do is fine, and it took me a long time to accept myself like that. So I get it, I really do. This was a relatable episode in the sense that it's okay to be introverted even if not everyone understands it, but ultimately, what was the resolution to all of this? Drizzile cracked half a smile and then just went back to avoiding everyone, and Go was happy about this? The way Go explained it made it seem like Drizzile may as well be Suicune, that it's his Pokemon, but it doesn't even have to be there. This made it sound like this was almost some way to write Drizzile out of the show for the time being. Like, is it going to be 15 plus episodes before we even see it leave its den? That's not a satisfying outcome of this episode to me. Furthermore, like I said before, wasn't Drizzile's main reason for being sad that it wasn't an Inteleon like it wanted to be? How come we totally lost sight of that by the end of the episode? I was so expecting part of the resolution to this issue to be that Go and Drizzile reaffirmed their goal to help Drizzile become an Inteleon one day, and I was let down when that wasn't even mentioned. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's circle back to the rating. I've heard people call this one of the best episodes of Pokemon Journeys so far, and I'm giving this episode a 5 out of 10 rating. That's not bad, that's actually perfectly in the middle, so don't get the idea that I hate this episode or anything, because I don't. For all the reasons I've mentioned, I just don't really think they handled Sobble's evolution into Drizzile very well. I think they did a good job of talking about the complexities of introversion, but that doesn't exactly make this a good or especially entertaining episode in my opinion. I think the 3 highlights for me were 1. Ash and Go's random interview, 2. Sobble's action hero montage, and 3. Cinderace's epic knee slide celebration at finally getting some screen time for the first time in a while. I feel like I'm usually the one who's on the positive side of things here, and I get people complaining about me liking Pokemon Journeys too much, but I think I rate this episode lower than most people. Let me know what you all thought about it in the comments. In the next episode, we're doing an aquatics race. Yay? This basically looked like a filler episode, but it is apparently a Chloe and Eevee focused episode, and it'll be the first time we see Dracovish in action since it was caught 12 episodes ago. What took so long? I have no clue how this is going to play out and what the significance of it will be. Apparently, there will be some kind of interaction between Eevee and Vaporeon. I wonder if this will be the start of an arc that sees Chloe's Eevee interact with each individual evolution. Last thing to mention here today is that I got my first ever copyright strike the other day. Hooray! But for real, I was not excited to see this at all. It was totally out of the blue, and the video of mine that got taken down was my episode 17 review of Pokemon Journeys, which went out over a year ago, and I had never had any copyright issues prior to this with that video. For those of you who don't know, ShowPro will often flag videos with content ID claims, and that usually means you just have to edit like 10 seconds of the video and you're all clear. A copyright takedown is much more serious. It permanently deletes the video from YouTube and gives you a strike, and if your channel gets 3 strikes within 90 days of one another, your whole channel gets permanently deleted. Now, I know ShowPro and their, well, very strict enforcement on fair use has been in the news lately in the Anapo community, so I know I'm not the only one affected by it. What I will say is that my videos back then are really nothing like the style of videos that I do now, so I think what I may do is just delete old videos myself that I think may be at risk for a similar copyright strike. Like I said, this one was a random video from over a year ago that had no prior history of any copyright issues. That means that they could just as easily take down 2 more of my videos at any given moment, and poof, there goes my channel. All that work over the past year plus to reach 1,000 subscribers, gone in an instant. It's scary and pretty unfair in my opinion, so I'm gonna do my best to try and make sure that doesn't happen. I don't know if any of you really care about any of that news, but I figured I'd keep you updated since it did give me a very stressful night's sleep when I got that email at 3 a.m. Thanks so much for watching this video, and let me know what you guys thought about this week's episode as well as your predictions for what's to come. And check out my Twitter and Discord links down in the description. I've got a couple more videos that are close to being done, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss them when they do come out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.